officers, board of directors, members, and participants in its activities shall comply in all respects with federal and state antitrust and/or fair competition laws, regulations, and rules as may be applicable. Accordingly, no activity or discussion, any OmniAir sponsored meeting, or other function related competition or related practices that may restrain trade is permitted. Such prohibited topics include establishing prices, allocating markets, encouraging boycotts, regulating production, or or any other understanding or agreement that may be construed as anti-competitive. Turning it back over to you, Jason.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So welcome to all of our members. If you're not yet an OmniAir member, please consider joining. You can click on the QR code for more information, but OmniAir represents, we think, the complete ecosystem of connected vehicles and tolling technologies, everyone from automotive OEMs to tier one, tier two suppliers, chipset providers, test laboratories, research institutions, and network carriers. So really so glad to have so many of our members here and looking forward to seeing many of you in person next week. Next, please. So just a heads up on an event that we are partnering with ITS Midwest on. We are organizing some outdoor demos in Dublin, Ohio, which is just outside of Columbus. Many of you may remember our Ohio Plug Fest in 2021. We did some field testing in Dublin. We're going to be partnering with them on some demos of V2X and sensing and AV technologies and some data sharing. I've asked Will Simon, I don't know if Will's on the call, but he is working with us to help organize that event. So if you see Will or Ryan next week at Plugfest, be sure to talk to them about this. We'll have some more information about how you can get involved in the next week or two. Next, please. So our big event, and we're so excited, next week is our 18th OmniAir Plugfest. We're excited to bring that to the great state of Maryland. We're partnering with Johns Hopkins University, Maryland Transportation Authority, and the Maryland CAV Working Group on what I think is going to be a very exciting event. Not only are we doing a week of conformance and field performance and security testing, we are also doing one-day workshop, technical deep dive sessions throughout the week, live demonstrations of V2X and AV technologies, and understand even a behind-the-scenes tour of Camden Yards. So lots of exciting things happening that week. Hope you're able to join us in Baltimore. If you are planning to attend and you haven't registered yet, please do so today. I think this is the last day we're going to have registration open, and for workshop attendees, the price is very modest, 150 private sector and 75 public sector academia. Next, please. So a little bit difficult to read, but I just wanted to quickly walk people through the agenda. We do have several opening speakers for our workshop on Tuesday, June 2nd. We'll have representation from the Whitting School of Engineering. We'll have Chrissy Nazer who's the administrator of the Motor Vehicle Administration for Maryland. We'll have Richard Jamilo, who is the COO for Maryland Transportation Authority. And our keynote speaker, Mike Halem, who is Deputy Assistant Secretary, U.S. Department of Transportation. We'll follow that up with a panel on testing and standards that Suzanne Murtha from AECOM will lead. We'll have a fireside chat on V2X tolling. So that's Lev Pinellas and Lori Brady from CAPSH. Lev, of course, with Toll Insight, does really, really great workshops in tolling space. Dr. DeBura, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, is going to be leading an all-star panel on cybersecurity, looking at everything from V2X misbehavior to post-quantum cryptography and all kinds of fun things that go bump in the night. So look forward to that. And next, please. So we will have a fireside chat on AI risk assurance, on AV, how do you sort of measure risk for AVs? And that's Jason John Michael from the US DOT Highly Automated Safety System Center of Excellence, and Nick Hagemeyer from Drive Ohio. Deployment panel led by Steve Novosad from HNTB, and then a fireside chat that I'm going to moderate with Trish Hendren from Eastern Transportation Coalition, Mark Muriella for IBTTA, and Bobby McCurdy from ITS America, focused on how we're going to pay for all this. All this wonderful technology, and does technology including VDEX tolling. Does that change how we are, going to finance the infrastructure of the future? So lots of great things. And I know there's a networking reception that will happen that evening. We'll have some demos as well. I think we even have a slide on the demos. We put a story on LinkedIn today. So if you want to read that, next please, Brikenda. Oh, yep. So live demos, just two flavors of VitaX tolling from Indra and CAPS. CAPS being partnered with Audi and Edifice, a great Korean company. Indra, I think, will have Coda Wireless involved. We'll have some unique tabletop demos from Johns Hopkins, and, Morgan State. I understand there may be a robot dog somewhere barking around from University of Maryland. Robot.com will have some AV vehicles running. OmniTrust and Raven Connect are going to show some network V2X. And I know Morgan State will be doing some work zone safety applications. And Saxton Labs will have their 1/10th scale model and be showing some instances of misbehavior detection, which fits really well with the thing we're doing for the very first time, and I'm really personally most excited about, is our inaugural OmniAir hackathon. We've had student teams over the past month or two working on a problem focused on triggering misbehavior in V2X devices and coming up with some novel solutions. These will be student teams from Johns Hopkins, Morgan State, University of Windsor, Ontario, and University of Maryland College Park. We have Angela Foster, who, if you're from the Maryland area, you know her very well from her traffic reporting on CBS News and the iHeartRadio. We're so excited that she will be emceeing that event. Come cheer on your favorite team. I think Hopkins is Team Blue Jay, and maybe a favorite among some here on the call. Next, please. So we're going to do our working group updates. Do we have Shaquille Zafar on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
So this is what we call the lightning round, Shaquille, because we do have some esteemed guests, and we'll see how quickly you can make it through this. Next, please. Floor is yours, sir.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Good morning. Here, I'm gonna try to go as quickly as I can. Here are some of the working group updates. I mean, we have a lot of working groups at OmniAir. We have these calls about once a month. So we did not have there were no documents in 30-day IP review or 14-day working group review. For the connected infrastructure working group, we performed a walkthrough of the IT 4001 test cases. This was the second phase of the walkthrough, and majority of the requirements will be met by these test cases for that standard. Also finalizing the draft test cases for the traffic signal controller SPAT output. The working group is looking for test station developers' input for these test cases. So hopefully we will get those in the upcoming meetings. The next meeting is Monday, June 8 at 11 a.m. The sensor certification requirements working group. This is a relatively in the working group and had a couple of meetings already, and it is focused on J3224 standard, which is for the sensor data sharing messages, also known as SDSM. The working group chair has created an Excel spreadsheet. We went through the spreadsheet and discussed different test parameters. It was agreed that the distances to be set to 100, 150, and 200 meters for low, medium, and high speeds for message generations, for V2X message generations. The next meeting is Thursday, June 11 at 3 p.m. The tolling and emerging working group. This meeting was focused on discussing some technical parameters like range, backscatter, angle of arrival, the height of the gantry. Also discussed how we can improve the testing in the field.
And so
The
let me I'll add a little color to that. So as many of you know, OmniAir does testing and certification, not just for connected vehicle technologies, but also legacy RFID technologies for tolling. And we've been doing that since 2012. There is a new test specification from the 6C coalition that we're working our way through and trying to make sure that we have alignment between those test requirements and OmniAir's certification programs. we still do single protocol. We also do multi-protocol in cooperation with the EasyPass world. So that is something we're kind of working through, and look forward to having something to share shortly. Next, please.
Okay. Yeah, so for the tolling and emerging payments, the chair is looking for some, we looked at some test reports and the chair is looking for some constructive feedbacks from the OEMs and IOs. The next meeting is on July 6th at 3 p.m. Next slide, please. The Network V2X working group, this is also a relatively new working group. The chair has created a boundary diagram for the Network V2X. We discussed that diagram and tried to establish a scope of the Network V2X certification. It was agreed during the call that we should not be testing the UU interface as it is already covered by the 3GPP's certification. The working group would like to focus on the integrity and the end-to-end message delivery and application performances.
So
The next,
let me just make a little advertisement. This group is chaired by Ted Sadler of WSP. It is a brand new working group. We're focused on program scope and trying to set some parameters around what will be a certification program that will ensure that, as best we can, the network V2X messages conform to the industry standards. And I know some of those standards are in progress, and we're a little bit ahead of that. But and I think there is an ongoing discussion about whether our certification should include UU testing, sort of the PHY layer of testing that we do currently for CV2X PC5. Or since GCF certification is available for that UU layer, is that something that OmniAir wants to step into? And that's an ongoing discussion, but I would strongly encourage you to attend that, and we will have some demonstrations of Network V2X. I think our goal is at Plugfest, our goal is to ensure that we convey that same trust that we do for direct communications as network, as we start living in a blended environment with network and direct.
yeah, thanks, Jason. The next call for Network V2X is July 7th at 2 p.m. The V2X application testing working group, the chair discussed SRM data quality and ETA stability requirements matrix per J2945/B standard. There are many parameters in that matrix, one of the parameters being max data update age, whose value should be set to 250 milliseconds. The chair also discussed another matrix relating to transmission intervals, timeouts, and application latencies. The work group is interested in vendors' feedback to see if these values are also are already being tested, or will they need to be developed for the test cases. The next meeting is Tuesday, June 16 at 1 p.m. The V2X tolling working group, another relatively new working group, had few meetings already. The goal of the group is to come up with test cases and use cases for the V2X tolling applications. Currently, the group is in the middle of gathering information on agency needs, interoperability, and certification criteria. This group sees very good participations on all of its calls from IOs and OEMs.
So
The
let me speak to this very quickly. So as many of you know, we did a VDEX tolling workshop in North Carolina, cooperation with North Carolina Turnpike. And we had some really great stakeholder feedback. We have opened this group to members and non-members for the remainder of the year. We think it's that important to get this right. We're especially looking for tolling agencies who may not yet be members to come and give us some insights. We have long offered certification for both Vita X OBUs and RSUs, as well as legacy roadside equipment for tolling. And we think OmniAir is very well positioned to develop a new certification program, starting with SAE J3217 conformance and also J3217/R. That bleeds over into the kind of legacy work that we've done on RUC. But it's incredibly important to get the requirements right first, and then we will be off to the races in writing test cases. I know there's a number of associations that are stepping into this space, and we think that's great. I think it's important to get that much feedback, but our narrow focus really is is basically building on the existing certification programs so that we convey that trust to VDEX. Tolling and tolling's a little bit different. The requirements for field testing, environmental, et cetera, are a little bit unique to tolling. And so we want to make sure that we're listening as much as we're talking in that. And if you are interested in contributing to that effort, please do reach out. And then in the interest of time, maybe let's just flash to the last working group update very quickly.
Okay.
So, so we have three other working groups: certification policy, which governs our um, rules of our certification programs. We're doing a lot of look at our surveillance program and recertification guidelines. So Lori Brady of CAPS is chairing that. If you really sort of have a bent toward the regulatory and the rules side of things, encourage you to join that. Cybersecurity working group, a lot of work on misbehavior uh, detection. We have a new test specification, 763A, that we did a virtual testing event a couple of weeks ago. And then we'll take those learnings and do some additional testing at Spring Plug Fest. This is the subject of the hackathon. We'll also have some live demos um, at um, at this, and then we're also this working group is reviewing J3217 because as tolling enters into that connected vehicle space, there are some security concerns that need to be addressed, and so there's a little cross-pollination between the two working groups. And we do have a Tiger team focused specifically on misbehavior detection, which I think I spoke to just momentarily. Shaquille, thank you very much for your updates. I did want to, in the interest of time, say two things. One, Shaquille is organizing all of the testing next week at Plugfest. So if you don't like where you are on the schedule, don't reach out to me, reach out to Shaquille. Um, but I think he's done an outstanding job, and I think we're going to have one of the best Plugfests yet. So with that, I wanted to introduce a couple of our guest speakers. I see there's a few more in the room from Johns Hopkins University. I don't think Johns Hopkins needs any introduction as a university. It's one of the storied academic institutions, one of the best, first really research-focused institutions in the United States, located in Baltimore. We're, of course, doing our Plugfest at the Mount Washington campus. And the more I read about the university and the School of Engineering and the AI initiatives, it's just amazing to me how much they've been able to accomplish. Um, and I think you can tell that from the introductions here. Dr. Anton de, which I think Tony is his preferred title, is the executive director of the Information Security Institute. He is the co-director of the Institute of Assured Autonomy. And I think my favorite is he leads the Sports Analytics Research Group at Johns Hopkins University. We expect baseball questions later on. Also began his career at AT&T Bell Labs, and before that received many degrees, including up through his PhD at Johns Hopkins University, the Whitting School of Engineering. We also have Dr. Seth Zonis, who is the executive business partner for AI at the university. He leads the kind of corporate partnerships and technology ventures. And so if you are in the private sector or perhaps even government looking to partner with Johns Hopkins on really, really cool technology initiatives, research, other projects, I think that is the door to go through. And we're so very, very pleased to have both of these gentlemen here as our esteemed guest speakers and partners for our upcoming event. Dr. Burr, Dr. Zones, I am going to turn the floor over to you and allow you to introduce your other guests.
Okay, can everybody hear us well?
Yes, yes, we
Okay,
can.
great. Jason, thank you for the kind introduction. I was going to start off just kind of taking everybody through the way we see corporate interactions happening at Hopkins and give you guys a flavor for some of the ways we like to interact with industry. So the first thing I want to talk about, which I think is relevant to the room here, is that the OmniAir members are in a very unique position in the sense that you guys are not just using standards in your industry, but also helping to develop those. I was thinking about this a little bit and realizing that that's an amazing thing. But it can also mean that sometimes companies are sort of operating from the same, very similar playbook. And so in conversations we have with different technical leaders, there may be a sense that, companies are able to keep up with the technology, but maybe not getting ahead of it. And in particular, our sense is that in this field of autonomy, autonomous driving, and other related fields, the next generation of technology, to some extent, is living really in academic labs where new combinations, new permutations of the technology are being developed. And we know that the pace of that is accelerating very quickly. Also, from a talent perspective, we know we talk to different folks in the sector. There's always a sense that there are very talented people in your organization, sometimes standout talent. These are folks that are kind of driving maybe a disproportionate amount of progress for the company. And a question sometimes comes up, how do you prevent those super talented individuals from plateauing? And what's a good way to get the most out of them so that the company is really at an advantage? So I wanted to just very quickly show you how our office has been approaching corporate engagement. In particular, we're thinking about 3 different dimensions of engagement. These are the reasons why companies usually look to academia. In one way, we have research interest to sort of explore the frontier, test out new ideas, work with experts in a sector. There's, of course, recruiting. You have to have the most talented individuals in your company actually doing the work. And then also upskilling, making sure that the employees you currently have cutting edge tools and learning. So I wanted to just very quickly give you guys a flavor for a few of these mechanisms that I think may be of interest. And then our faculty are going to be able to fill out sort of what is the content. So I'm speaking to the how you might partner, but they're going to speak to the why and what there is potentially available. So the first thing is really where companies typically start. And again, it can happen from any different direction. But we think about like a research collaboration. This can be an entry point. And here I think the idea is fairly simple. The company has identified a technical area where there is a challenge or an opportunity to explore a frontier. We have, as you'll find out, many faculty with careers spent becoming experts in those particular fields, being able to contribute to, let's say, an adjacent problem for the company. Our office will help bring together the corporate scientist and team with faculty. And we always think about trying to structure something that's easy to start with, right? We don't want to get caught up in very extensive, long, complicated partnerships. So we can work with very small, frictionless pilots. And that's a way to build a relationship. And from there, we can move on to something more substantial. And so companies will tell us that it's not just the output of these partnerships that they're interested in, but also the visibility. It opens up a window into a new potential field or research area or direction, potentially showing up in 1 or 2 or 3 years and offering a chance to get ahead of basically where the hockey puck is going in the sector. And so again, this is an opportunity to start off small. It can grow, and the commitment levels are quite reasonable. A chance to bring in new talent, new fresh perspective on an issue. Next thing I want to talk about is a program that we call the Doctor of Engineering, which surprises a lot of folks in industry the first time they hear about it. So the Doctor of Engineering is a doctorate, but it works very differently than a traditional PhD. So what's different is that one of your employees doesn't have to quit their job, go off to a university for 5 or 6 years, hope they come back. In fact, your employee stays on the payroll. They stay in their role, and all they're doing is working on sort of a more structured dissertation of a problem that your company has brought to the table. So we think it's very much designed for that high potential engineer who you expect is probably capable of more than they're doing. And you don't want to lose them to a competitor or back to academia. So this definitely gives them a chance to sort of level up, is the way we think about it, and deliver something useful to the company as well while they're doing it. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about something that may be even more accessible than the other two items that I spoke of, which is probably the concept of executive and professional education for your engineers and scientists. Hopkins has a very large catalog. It's growing very much. I think at the latest count, on the order of 25 master's programs and 32 certificate offerings. These are designed for working professionals, very flexible, all different kinds of delivery vehicles, so online, hybrid, asynchronous. And some of the subject matters we think are very much squarely in the OmniAir consortium's technical area: cybersecurity, AI, data science, space systems. And so companies focusing on retention of their best employees, which I'm sure everybody is here. This is one of the most tangible things you can offer to your employees, and it keeps them working and learning at the same time. So the last thing I want to talk about, Jason mentioned, Tony and the other faculty will also talk about, is why Hopkins is a place that you can think about as an investment in the future. So I wanted to introduce our DSAI, Data Science and AI Initiative, which really kind of was born in 2023. There was an announcement of perhaps the largest investment in an academic AI program in the country. I'm going to cover what is involved in that investment. Primarily an investment in recruiting faculty and students and staff to develop the future of AI research. So this includes 80 new tenure track faculty. There are going to be 30 endowed chairs that are called Bloomberg Distinguished Professors. These are very senior faculty who are going to bridge disciplines from the core AI into the various application spaces. We'll also, in addition to those 120, there'll just be an additional 40 faculty hires who are going to be going into computer science, applied math and statistics department, and our electrical and computer engineering. So this, by the end of the 5-year period when we're going to be doing these hires, we expect Hopkins Engineering to be roughly the largest private engineering school in terms of its faculty, larger than MIT, in fact. And along with this comes a whole lot of PhD students and cutting edge ancillary support. So again, just to close here, and again, we don't need to push this too hard, but this really is an exceptional place to partner. Our rankings across all these different disciplines have been outstanding, very much a destination for research. And I do want to say that the culture here affords very much a collaborative environment where you don't have much in the way of siloing with very large departments. And so this promotes a lot of cross-disciplinary work, and our structure allows for that. And I think corporations that are looking for the future have to be thinking about multidisciplinary and places where they can explore at those boundaries and not get stuck in a silo. So thank you for your attention here. I'm very much excited to meet with those attending PlugFest next week. I'm going to be here. I'd love to get to know anybody that's interested in a partnership. We do have this QR code if you're very excited to talk to me now, you can take a picture of this and let me know. But we'll certainly be following up. So thank you very much. I want to hand it over to
Yeah.
okay, Christian.
Well, yeah, let me just say that we're gonna segue into sharing with you some of the research that we've been doing in the area of connected transportation.
Okay.
So Krishan Sobnani, who's professor of computer science in the Whiting School of Engineering, will be introducing the S4 laboratory to you.
Let me just, okay. All right, so it's truly wonderful to meet this distinguished group of industry folks. By the way, I was in industry for a long time. I was at Bell Labs for 35 years, and I came to Hopkins over 5 years ago. So after coming here, I started this lab with a colleague of mine, Tony DeBura, whom all of you know well. This is S4 Lab. S4 stands for Safe, Secure, Smart, and Scalable Communication Infrastructure, or V2X networks. Now, the main idea here is that these different vehicles will be sharing information with each other. That means whatever they sense around them, they'll be sharing information with each other. And then we should be able to come up with a better situational awareness picture of what's going around each vehicle, and hopefully this will lead to safety. Now, there are a number of different problems that need to be solved to create a system like this. By the way, most of the work that's been done in this area, in the AI community, etc., they assume that they do not recognize the limitations of V2X channels. So this is where we have made significant advances. Now, there are many parts of our activities. I'm just going to focus on just one of them. The idea here is that, as there are these different sensors, LiDARs on roadsides, cameras in cars, etc., they, do computation on their own and come up with a bird's eye view of what is around them, and then they share this information with each other. Now, this information is collected at different times. So synchronize all of this information together is a tough problem. And here we have made some advances in AI techniques to be able to do this. And then we fuse all of this information together. So essentially what this will help is if there are vehicles that a driver cannot see, this is see-through or pollution removal. This is what we do. And also we can look further onto the road also. Let me see, for some reason I'm stuck here. Let me see. So here is a use case. There you see here 3 cars and a truck. And there's a driver wants to make a left turn. This is on the left-hand side. There's a blue car. And it cannot really see this red car that is coming from the intersection. And if it can get this information from the car on the right, from the sensors that are in it, then it can prevent this accident. Now, one of the difficult problems here is that the information gets collected by each one of the cars is done at a different time. How do you merge this information together? And this is where we have come up with some AI techniques called time difference encoding. This is simply to positional encoding in transformers. And we're also sending position of different cars also. And by merging this, these different bird's eye view together from the neighboring cars, we can come up with I would say, more accurate, more complete bird's eye view of this. Now, we are doing work with some of the local DOT departments. We are working with Prince George's County, and we have an agreement with them to get information from LiDARs that are installed at the intersection of Lotford and Medical intersection. This is in close to Washington, D.C. And then in near Johns Hopkins campus, this is the Homewood campus at intersection. Baltimore town is putting up a couple of lidars and some cameras also. And they're also giving us a cabinet in which we'll be putting on old servers. So eh, we're not only doing theoretical work, but we're also, working with DOTs to learn about the real problems that they have. And then there's a number of other activities we have in this area, but I'm not going to get into that. By the way, I just want to show you these sensors are really improving. This is a kernel LiDAR that Oster is coming up. You see this picture is almost the same as you will get in from a camera. Now, most LiDARs that you see, they are these point clouds, the bunch of points, but here you can see almost complete image. All right.
Great. Thank you, Krishan.
Okay.
Next, I'm going to describe some ongoing work at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. And the project is led by Ashutosh Dutta, who couldn't be here today. This work has to do with real-time security monitoring, detection, and mitigation in 5G networks. And I'll explain why these capabilities are highly relevant to the future of connected transportation systems and V2X communications. This work was originally motivated by the needs of the national security and emergency preparedness community, where resilient communications are essential, of course, during emergencies, disasters, and critical public safety operations. Because modern emergency communications increasingly rely on commercial 5G infrastructure, the challenge becomes, how do we maintain trusted, high-priority communications even when the network itself is under cyber attack? So to address this, the Applied Physics Lab developed a sophisticated 5G test bed capable of monitoring both the control plane and user plane traffic in real time. The system incorporates intrusion detection, anomaly monitoring, adaptive automation, and dynamic orchestration of virtualized security functions across the radio access network, edge, and core. And I don't think I need to tell you about what makes this especially important for connected transportation, but we know that intelligent transportation systems will rely heavily on the same types of distributed low latency 5G architectures. These include connected vehicles, roadside infrastructure, autonomous shuttles, traffic systems, and cooperative perception networks, all depending on these trusted real-time communications. So the techniques developed in this project translate directly into transportation applications. For example, the system can identify suspicious devices, anomalous traffic behavior, spoofed messages, or denial of service attacks in real time by correlating identifiers such as device IDs, traffic patterns, and communication behaviors. Once the threats are detected, the architecture supports closed-loop mitigation. That means the network can dynamically isolate malicious devices, reroute traffic, prioritize trusted communications, or instantiate additional security services automatically, all while maintaining operational continuity. So this concept is extremely powerful for V2X environments where cyber attack could otherwise create unsafe conditions by injecting false hazard messages, spoofing vehicle identities, or disrupting cooperative driving applications. And perhaps most importantly, the project is moving toward AI-enabled proactive security monitoring, where machine learning models continuously analyze traffic patterns and adapt defenses before attacks can fully materialize. So that's a brief description of this 5G test bed. And if anyone is interested, please contact me and I will put you in touch with the right people here at Johns Hopkins. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Professor Renji Zhao, who is an assistant professor of computer science in the Whiting School of Engineering at Johns Hopkins. Renji?
All right, thanks for introduction. So here's Renji. I'm assistant professor from computer science and also affiliated to Institute for Shared Autonomy and the DSAI. So today I'm just going to briefly introduce what we are doing here. I'm leading the Hopkins lab. Here we are working on the Internet of Things and also on the next generation wireless networking and sensing direction. So I just cover some of the view, not going too much on the details of the research, but covering some of the great vision we have over here. So my connection with the V2X, in fact, is one of the projects I was working on during my PhD. So during that days, we are having the millimeter wave, which just coming out. And what we are interested in is looking into whether millimeter wave can be used into the V2X application scenario, because it's considered to be really challenging because of the mobility of the vehicles. So what we are doing is that we developed a software-defined radio that is shown on the left-hand side. This is what I worked on. It is a software-defined radio so that we can send in whatever different type of the waveforms, not only constrained to a single type of the communication waveform. So we also have integrated this platform into some of the roadside unit at UC San Diego. So we deploy these units so that, and we also deployed other units, millimeter wave units on top of the vehicle so that we can test with the capability of the electrical beamforming coming from this kind of antenna array, can we handle the mobility introduced by the car moving by. So this is where I was coming from. And when I start as a assistant professor, what we are further exploring is, I mean, I also worked on other side of Internet of Things. So we are exploring some of the connections beyond CVX. By the way, CVX is really great. It is developing when we're exploring on the millimeter wave, and it indeed shows a great step forward compared to the previous DSA IR. But what we are looking into in this direction is that we found that CVX is great, but it is considered it still needs a lot of effort in deploying either the roadside unit and onboard units. And it will be adopted maybe mainly in the new vehicles which have these onboard units being integrated. But we also still have a lot of the legacy vehicles, and as well as the vulnerable users, such as the pedestrians, riders. They will definitely will not have those onboard units. And on the other hand, the V2X spectrums available for C-V2X is also becomes more limited. So the old application from FCC we're talking about have relatively wider capabilities. It is starting from the 5.85 gigahertz to 5.925 gigahertz. But the new allocation from the FCC, they just reallocate part of it to unlicensed Wi-Fi, which leads to only around 30 megahertz available spectrum for C-V2X. This highly limits the available throughput that can be achieved by the C-V2X. And this is the reason why we are exploring the capability, can we use unlicensed band, or also possible to be licensed band only supported by the cellular networks, so that we can use it for the local connections that is sharing much higher data rate communications. Because we are looking into the case that many of the real-time sensor information, it is meaningful only for the local case, right? You want to share that there is another vehicle coming across from the other side of the crossing, and it is only needed for a local, for really local area. And this is the reason why we are exploring on this. And another direction is closely related to the cellular network, the PP they are exploring for the next generation, the 6.3, is a capability introduced by the joint communication sensing. So this is also an opportunity coming from right now that we have mobile devices that is being attached even for the legacy users, legacy vehicles, and vulnerable roadside users. We are carrying mobile devices everywhere, and we have the existing connectivity through the cellular network or Wi-Fi. And we are looking into, can we use this signal source as a hint that there are roadside users or legacy vehicles over there, so that the new vehicles can use this as a hint, saying that there are other users maybe coming by, and we shall be careful about that. So these are a brief introduction of our vision, and thanks for listening.
Great. Thank you, Renji, and thanks to all of you. And so we appreciate it. I saw some messages in the chat about reaching out to us. So hopefully some of you will connect with us. We'll be around PlugFest, of course. Look forward to speaking with those of you who will be attending. And otherwise, we would love to chat with you about things you're interested in. And so Jason and Brukenda, back to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I'll go on video real quick. Okay, thank you so much. I think you can see from this very small presentation why we chose to do the Plug Fest at Johns Hopkins, just what great partners they have made for this event, and what amazing research that's happening there. And so let me maybe just start with this. So we have an interesting mix of members that are everyone from automotive OEMs, engineering firms, to infrastructure owner-operators, including tolling authorities and state DOTs. And you talked about partnerships, ways for these different entities to collaborate with Johns Hopkins. So let's say that there is a state DOT or an IOO that would be interested in collaborating on research. What's the process look like? What maybe are some examples of that? And then the same thing on the private sector side.
Yeah, Jason, great question. I think our office can help sort of do some concierge work. So I would say the method we would use is, obviously we want to talk to the potential partner, hear out what they're looking for in terms of a collaboration. We are designed to help sort of scan around the community for the right connection. Right, we have a lot of relationships with our faculty, and we can consult with them. And then Jason, we're just kind of looking for, what's the right interaction look like? Is it a small pilot project? Is it a large scale collaboration? Do we partner for, let's say, going after a government grant like a DARPA or an ARPA? So we really just kind of listen in, and then we have the tools to sort of try and accelerate the collaboration. We work very closely with our contracting group and our licensing people, so we can sort of mobilize quickly and try and get things started. I would say, Jason, for private, it's really the same, it's largely the same process. We have to, think a little bit about what's proprietary, what is the company looking to get out of the partnership. And then we just kind of build so that we find that intersection with where academia is comfortable and where the partner is comfortable. And we have lots of different varieties of prior partnerships that we can build new partnerships based on the building blocks from the old ones.
Yeah, and on the technical side, it's really as simple as reaching out and say, hey guys, we have a problem we think you might be interested in. And so we become involved on the technical side. We also involve Seth and his colleagues as we better understand what the nature of the relationship should be and set up a framework around it.
So I very impressed with the work that you guys have talked about, in connectivity and testing in both RF, various types of RF technologies, both CV2X and beyond. I'm wondering about the work that you're seeing, the research intersecting V2X and AI. I mean, I know Johns Hopkins does a tremendous amount of work and research and promoting the market for AI, and I think that we're all looking forward to that world of physical AI that's coming that will impact transportation. But I know a lot of transportation agencies are really just struggling with that, and they have investments in V2X and they have investments in AI, and Do you see those worlds coming together? Do you see opportunities for sort of cutting edge research and collaborative research with kind of those two worlds?
I'll kick it off and I'll say absolutely. I think that there are many problems out there, some challenges that where AI could be a good fit. I think that the one of the big considerations is assurance
Mm,
because of the safety critical aspect of what we do. And that's the institute that I co-direct, the Institute for Assured Autonomy, addresses that specifically. So when it comes to concepts like responsible AI, safety, trust, and overall assurance, security, these are things that we're acutely aware of. And so, our mission is to ensure the successful deployment of AI in society in applications like this.
mm.
So yeah, so that's a big part of it. I think that it's just especially challenging in connected transportation because of the safety
Yeah.
requirements.
Uh, So I showed you two intersections in Maryland from which we'll be getting data. So it's like flowing water. If the information is coming out from it, what the DOTs in these towns would like to see is that they get some long-term trend information and they can come up with policies, for example, to reduce pedestrian deaths, etc. So one of the things that, for example, when you're talking to folks at Prince George's County was that they're putting all this hardware to justify it, and it has to bring value. So
Mm.
AI basically what it does is when you get a lot of data, get some, trends from that. And by the way, once we have these AI models, I say we want to try out different policies to see what will be the effect on those intersections, that can also be very helpful also. So again, the work that we are doing here, we are looking for partners. Partners we have are the DOT departments, but down the road, probably we'll be working with some of these car companies also. By the way, we have a very close ties with Bell Labs. So we're working with them on this.
Excellent. Let me open the floor to questions. I know that we have people who've been sitting here thinking about, maybe a little bit shy. I want to just open the floor and see if anyone has a question for our speakers.
While people are thinking, just to build on what Krishan said, what we're observing and is fairly obvious is that there's a wonderful period of development of different pieces of technology in connected transportation right now. We're seeing a lot of that, on this call at PlugFest and so forth. And I think that AI, back to AI, but not limited to AI. The interesting questions are what happens as these technologies become increasingly interconnected. And we really see the semblance of full systems with the feedback loop, the complete feedback loop that we all like to see. And that's where I think some of the real advances will happen. So we're really laying the groundwork for some really exciting developments to come.
Well, maybe just as a teaser for the panel that you're going to moderate, I think about it. I come from a transportation security background, so I think about sort of assessing risk and protecting critical infrastructure, and then the more we have connected transportation, the more the attack surface grows, and the more that IOs really have to start thinking about this. And I just wanted to kind of, what are a couple themes that you're going to bring out in your panel next week?
Yeah, well, it's as we know, transportation is a very tempting target for bad actors. So we have a variety of experts on the panel who will be addressing the types of threats that we are experiencing and most importantly are expecting to see as these systems become richer, more interconnected, not only interconnected among themselves, but in a way, unfortunately, interconnected with the world, which opens up opportunities for nefarious actors to do all kinds of bad things. I mentioned some of them earlier, but disruption, privacy concerns, and damaging and threatening lives as well. So there are lots of things to consider just on the security front alone.
Excellent, excellent. Let's pause for a second and see if we have any other questions from the audience. Don't be shy. I know they're not shy in the working groups of giving their opinions. Well, let me before we wrap, let me leave with one question. So I read this article, so I was doing a little research for this panel, and I came across an article, Tony, about a couple of your students last year using AI and computer vision for sizing baseball bats.
Yes.
Maybe could you talk about that? And is that research helping the Orioles kind of come out of the cellar? We expect to make the playoffs because of that.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not sure how I can tie that into connected transportation,
Yeah.
but but it was some really impressive work. It was done specifically for the Baltimore Orioles and their analytics department. And so the students managed to exceed the expectations for the specificity. If you recall, last year there was the rage about torpedo bats, the bats that sort of bulge in the middle,
Uh-huh.
which is within the rules. But it turns out that those bats need to be kind of conformance testing to make
Ah,
sure
okay.
that the bats meet the specifications that were set for them. So the students did a great job. The Orioles now have a system inside that's saving them a lot of time and is actually better than a human trying to measure by hand. So
That's
I don't know.
exciting. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the same technology that I know a number of our tolling members and state DOTs use for sort of traffic counts and types of vehicles on the roadway. But this sounds like a much more fun application of it.
it is. And I think it's representative of the type of research that even we have amazing undergraduates here and amazing master students, and of course, incredible PhDs. So the combination of our faculty and our students we can really put together compelling teams of people. So I just ask you all to think about, in the coming days, think about opportunities where we might be able to collaborate. We would, the doors are open.
I think it's fantastic, and we appreciate it. We know that we'll have um, probably exceeding capacity as I'm starting to get reports in on how many people we'll have there. So I'm looking forward to seeing many, many of you there next week in Baltimore. Thank you, Seth and Tony and others there. We're really appreciative of this, and I hope you'll be willing to share some of your slides and contact information because I know there'll be people who want to follow up.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Right.
Prakenda, do you want to close us out?
Yes, I do. Let's see, where am I? Here I am. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for joining us. So just a couple key reminders that Jason had pointed out. We do have PlugFest coming up next week. June 2nd is the workshop. So if you guys are still looking to register, I did place that link in the chat. So please do so today so we can get our final head counts in. We have so many fun things planned for you, and we hope to see you there. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.